I'm Pat Sarmiere. I'm the VP of Preclinical Research here at Ovid Therapeutics. I've been here with the company for about 3 years.
What are some of the challenges that are faced by, finding treatments or therapeutics for rare diseases?
It's getting the basic science down, I think, um, and understanding the underlying mechanism. So an example is with KIF1A. We understand now after several years of research that KIF1A is a motor protein, right? And that disruption of that motor protein leads to dysfunction in the nervous system. So having that basic understanding is, I think, key for us to understand how to not only develop the compounds or drugs or medicines that we're interested in, but designing the ways in which we identify them. So I think those are the most challenging aspects of developing therapies or medicines for rare disorders. But in this case, I think we've got a good jump start in understanding biology, and with basic research, we're moving the needle on identifying therapies for KIF1A.
A lot of families encounter news about, genetic-based therapies or gene therapies, and that's obviously a pretty wide umbrella. How do you think about gene therapies? What is a gene therapy in the context of treating something that's a monogenetic disorder?
Gene therapy is it's a wide net, I think. So anything that goes after the underlying genetic disruption to me is a gene therapy. So when we're addressing the gene itself, whether it's replacing the gene in some cases, turning off genes that are inappropriately functioning is a gene therapy, or even now, as you mentioned, the editing side, editing the genomic DNA to repair the underlying changes that would result in an improved outcome. Those are all gene therapies. And I think when you take into account that those are the approaches, there's lots of different ways in which we can address those, go about making those changes. So, CRISPR is one way, RNAi or RNA interference technologies such as ASOs are one way, and then gene replacement through delivery through viruses are another way that people consider gene therapy. So I think, when I think about it, it's really addressing the underlying disease, not treating the symptoms.
And given this wide variety of gene therapies, what considerations and strategies are Ovid keeping in mind in designing therapeutics for KIF1A associated neurological disorder?
So I think the advantage is a weird word to use here, but I think in this case with KIF1A, we have a situation where there's one good copy and one bad copy for most patients with KIF1A. And so what that allows us to do is try to just turn off the bad copy to allow that good copy to function. That's not always the case for a lot of monogenetic disorders where there's a gain of function mutation. So the advantage is we don't have to fully replace the gene to get function, or we don't have to edit both copies to regain function. We just have to address one mutant allele, if you will, that could potentially allow us to have a therapy that's useful, right? So I think the really important thing here, what the advantage we have here is that one mutant allele scenario where we don't have to do gene replacement. We don't have to, create a whole new version of the gene that's functional. We just have to turn off the bad one. And that to me is a distinct advantage over other monogenetic disorders.
Are there any other thoughts that you would have that you would want to share with the CAN community or research network?
I think what's really great about this community is the willingness of the families to be involved, right? And I come back to that's the most exciting thing to me working with this organization is how involved the families are, and that's critically important, right? And understanding, it's even though it's a single gene or monogenic disorder is what we call it. There's multiple ways in which this disease manifests itself in different patients and through the different mutations. So I think being involved, and so we understand what the trajectories are for your families and your children going through this, so we understand how to and when to be involved from a therapeutic standpoint, so that when we do get to the clinic, when we have that medicine ready to be tested, we understand the expectations for where we want improvement to occur. So I think, patient involvement and understanding the trajectory of the disease, I think, is the most important thing we can do, while you patiently wait for organizations like Ovid and other companies that are interested in developing treatments and labs get their get their work done. So I think that's really important. I don't know many other organizations, or I haven't been involved with many organizations that are that involved. So it's a great thing that you guys are doing, and I think it's important to continue that tough but important aspect of being involved early.